Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. Today we're talking about Quentin Tarantino's latest film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is basically the story of these two friends. You have Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and he's an actor in Hollywood, and he's trying to figure out how to, remain relevant right now, because he's kind of on the verge of becoming a has-been. And then you have, his best friend, Cliff Booth, who's played by Brad Pitt, and he's been his stuntman for a good part of, his life now, and then just overall best friend kind of takes care of him. And, they're both, just trying to kind of figure out what the next step is in life. And then in the middle of all that, or I should say kind of the backdrop, you also have the story of the Manson family as kind of like a backdrop to all this. So that's the basic plot without giving away too much detail, because this is going to be a spoiler-free review. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the things that I liked about this movie. So first, everything just on the technical aspect of this film is amazing. The cinematography, the set design, the score, the soundtrack, all of that is just absolutely incredible. I mean, it's Quentin Tarantino. Everyone's pretty much come to kind of expect that part from him. You really felt like you were in, or you're transported back to that time period. So I thought they did a really great job with that. I absolutely love the soundtrack. I downloaded it and I've been listening to it now for a couple days. So really like the soundtrack and just how everything looked. Some of the shots in the film were incredible. So that's, just like that, the technical aspect, they really nailed it. But that's no surprise when it comes to Quentin Tarantino. As far as performances go, you have, great performances, I thought, from both Leonardo DiCaprio as Rick Dalton and then Brad Pitt as Cliff Booth. I thought that, they both did an excellent job. Rick Dalton, he has, like I said earlier, he's kind of coming to terms with that he might possibly be becoming a has-been. So he has a lot of emotional outbursts, which if you've seen the trailer, one of the scenes, which is one of my favorite scenes in the film, is when he's freaking out in his trailer after messing up one of his lines. So he's definitely an emotional character. He's flawed, and I really like that about him. So he put in a solid performance. And then on the other side, you have, Brad Pitt, who plays Cliff Booth, which he has an interesting aspect to his character that I won't tell you guys again, just to keep it spoiler free. But overall, he's a much more laid back, cool kind of guy. And, I really like that about him. There's a lot of great scenes, and they do this for a lot of Quentin Tarantino's films, but, there's just a lot of great scenes of, dialogue and, these two guys just, talking or driving around. And, Quentin Tarantino's pretty much made that's one of his signature things in his, his films up to this point is, just having these great fleshed out characters and, great scenes that could just be two guys simply talking. And he brings that again in this film. So that was definitely a standout for me. Margot Robbie, she was also, I thought she put in a good performance as well. She's definitely one of my favorite, actresses out there, in Hollywood at the moment. She doesn't have, I'd say, a huge role in this film, but she pops up, kind of from time to time, and I liked her performance overall. The last thing that I'm going to mention is that I thought the ending was pretty insane. Quentin Tarantino has a interesting take, or it does a certain twist on events that happened in history involving the Manson family. Won't go farther than that. But he does have an interesting take on what happens with that, and some crazy stuff does happen in the ending. So that was something that I really liked, and a good way to kind of, wrap up the film. As far as dislikes go, this film is about 2 hours and 45 minutes, so it definitely is, pretty long overall. And at times you can certainly feel that. There is, certain aspects during the film where it felt like scenes that were dragged out a little bit longer than they probably should have been. And while I did mention before, I like that, Margot Robbie's performance as Sharon Tate to a degree, I almost also felt that you could possibly have left her out of the film and it wouldn't have made like a huge difference. To kind of tie into that too, another aspect is just that there is certain parts of this film where some people, I feel like, depending on if you're like a big Quentin Tarantino fan or not, there are certain moments where you might be finding yourself wondering, okay, where, like, what's going on? Where is this film going? You know, what is this really leading up to? Because there's a lot of just like, you know, random scenes that happen, and I could see some people having a problem with that. Myself, it wasn't a big deal, but that's definitely something that some audiences I can see possibly not liking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And then the last thing I would mention is just that while I did like the overall ending of the film, I did think that there also could have been maybe a little bit more added to that. It was, you know, pretty short. There was crazy stuff that happened, but I feel like there was a little bit more that maybe could have been added, so felt me wanting a little bit more and not like, you know, necessarily the good way. So overall though, I still had a pretty good time with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. You know, like I said, as far as like the technical aspects, and you know, if you really love filmmaking, I think that you're gonna enjoy this film quite a bit. Also, if you're, you know, you like the 60s and want to take a you know, nostalgic trip back to that time period, I think that you know, might like this film as well, just for the simple fact of that. There's some great overall performances from, you know, all the actors involved. So there's real, you know, as far as acting goes, there's really no bad performances. And overall, as far as the score goes, I think I'm going to give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. So let me know if you guys have seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you know, down below in the comments. You know, let me know what your thoughts were of the film, and then what is your favorite Quentin Tarantino film up to this point as well. So leave that down below in the comments. And as always, guys, make sure if you are new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button with the bell button next to it, just so that way you get notifications for all my upcoming videos. And as always, guys, make sure to check back for more Pop Culture with Pat.